My boyfriend's mom invited my hurtful stepmom into our boyfriend and my home. Of course, trigger warning for mentions of abuse, though the advice is not needed for an hurtful situation. A little bit of background context. My stepmom, SM, 63-year-old female, abused me for most of my childhood, from ages 5 to 18. I won't go into too much detail about the specifics of the abuse because most of it was super disturbing, but it left me with significant, though permanent psychological and physical scars. One example I will mention, just so you know I'm not exaggerating, is how when I was little, she would put out her cigarettes on my skin when I misbehaved. The abuse continued right up until the day after I turned 18, and she kicked me out. She had talked all about how she couldn't wait until she was no longer legally responsible for me anymore, so I knew she was going to do this for months in advance. And I did have the sense to get my things together beforehand. I knew where she kept important documents, so I grabbed my birth certificate and other important items while she was out and gathered up as much of my clothes and personal effects as I could fit into my backpack without it looking too bulky and suspicious, then hid the bag away until my birthday. By that point, I was also dating my boyfriend, BF, who was also 18 and knew his mom, HM, well. They both knew of my situation and let me know that if it ever came down to it, I was welcome to stay with them, which I did and was and still am very grateful for. I lived there until I was turning 20 when BF and I finally found a decent apartment in a decent area, a little far from my job, but not a problem, and moved in together. We've been here ever since, and it's actually been really nice. We have routine, both work, and for the first time in my life, I've felt safety and stability. That was until Friday when I got off work. I found a car I didn't recognize parked in our usual space. Whatever, didn't think much of it as it had happened before. Maybe one of our neighbors had friends or family over. We had backup spaces to park in, so I parked and headed up. Then, before I can even put the key in the lock, I hear voices coming from inside. This is unusual because BF wasn't supposed to be home yet. I texted him, and he even confirmed that he was still at work. Okay. I just think to myself, maybe it's HM. Even though I didn't see her car parked anywhere, and not only that, but she also usually notifies one of us when she visits. But again, I thought, whatever. She does have a key. I open the door, and who do I see on my sofa? HM and SM, smiling and chatting one moment, and then upon seeing me, both looking like deer in headlights, which still confuses me because, how did they look like they didn't expect me to enter my own apartment? I wasn't home early, and I always get home before BF. HM knows our routine by now, but I digress. I didn't even fully step foot in the door. I just kind of stood there and stared, thinking I just had to be tripping, that there was no way this was actually happening. And I can't even imagine how I must have looked because after the initial shock, I could tell they were both panicked. I couldn't say anything because it felt like there was no air in my lungs. My stomach started to turn, and I suddenly got a feeling that I needed to get far away. HM stood up, and all she was able to say was, "Eden," before I spun around and speed walked back down the stairs, not even shutting the door, or hell, pulling my keys out of the door's lock. I know. But my brain was not working properly. Then I got sick on the sidewalk. SM and HM came after me, and HM tried calling out to me, but I just kept walking and stopped a little ways down the road when I knew they weren't following me anymore and called BF. Y'all, he was absolutely furious and ended up leaving work early. He first found me, and once I got in the car, I admit I cried. A whole lot. He comforted me until I was ready to head back because he rocks. HM was still waiting outside, and SM had actually gone back into our apartment for some reason. BF parked and told me it was okay if I stayed in the car until he sorted this out. He hopped out and immediately started just ripping into HM. The windows were up because it's cold as hell outside, but BF was so loud that I could hear everything. I've never seen him this mad before. A lot was said, but to make the exchange short, HM said that she ran into SM at church, which makes sense because there are only 2 churches in our area. HM has been attending that one for over a decade, and it's not far from SM's place either, and that SM had told her she wanted to make up for everything she'd put me through and reconnect. Obviously, BF was having none of that and continued to yell at her about how that wasn't her place and how could she do this. SM came back out after hearing shoot going down. We made eye contact for like a millisecond, then just stared down at her feet for the rest of the encounter, not saying a word, except for when BF stormed up to her and told her to get lost and never come back. He used a lot stronger language than that, of course. SM just nodded and muttered, "Yeah," and hurried to her car. "Yep, the car from earlier that was parked in our spot, that's the one," and promptly got the frick out. BF then continued yelling at HM. HM tried defending herself, claiming SM is my family, and families shouldn't hold grudges. Eventually, the yelling got to be so much I was worried someone would call the cops. Luckily, HM finally left, though crying, and BF took me inside. He spent the entire rest of that evening and these past 3 days, making sure I'm all right and showering me with affection. I have not seen SM since, though HM has been calling BF non-stop, but BF refuses to answer. The reason I'm writing this is that I don't know what to do at the moment. I know it's my fucked up brain talking, but I feel kinda responsible. And HM, aside from this incident, has always been extremely generous, kind, and supportive. She and BF have, again, up until this point, had a great relationship, and I really don't want that to fall apart over this. While I, of course, don't blame him for how angry he was at all, believe me, I was also pissed, but more so shaken, and am extremely grateful that he's so supportive. I know how much he loves his mom, and I really, really don't want this to be it for them. And don't worry, I'm certainly not forcing him to talk to her. I don't even want to talk to her. Any advice appreciated. Edit. Not an update, but I wanted to answer some of the questions people had. I promise to keep answering as many questions as I can and update you all if anything changes. As someone who at one point had nothing and no one, having so many people, even strangers, who care about my well-being now is quite overwhelming. I was super nervous, but I'm glad I posted here. Did you get your key back? Yes, BF made HM give the key back while he was still yelling at her. Though we can't be sure whether or not she's made copies. I would hope not. But then again, I also hoped she wouldn't have done something like this. And look where we're at. So many of you recommended getting the locks changed. We're looking into that now, so thanks a bunch for that. Where's your father? My father passed when I was 5 years old. I won't go into too much detail because that whole situation is a lot. He was hurtful towards me as well. And the whole reason SM hated me as much as she did was that she blamed me for his death. So even if he were alive, he would never have protected me. Sorry, folks. Where's your mother? She's also dead. She passed while in labor with me, I know. I was doomed from the start. Though even though I never met her, all who did tell me she was a lovely person who couldn't wait to become a mother. Sometimes I wonder if she'd have made it where I would be now. Probably much better off, but hey, life isn't fair. Are you looking into psychological help? Oh yeah, you bet. I've been looking into it for the better part of a year now, actually, before all of this shoot popped off. One of you recommended a psychologist, so I'll certainly be looking into that. Thank you guys for all your help and support so far. It means a lot. Did they take anything, leave any cameras/metal? Not that we can tell. We did a search, and nothing seemed out of place, actually. Apart from a couple of mugs and our coffee maker. Yes, they made coffee for themselves, in our home, while they chatted like everything was normal. Holy shoot, right? So we threw away those mugs and cleaned the coffee maker because, yeah. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you are not responsible. You did nothing wrong. I'm really proud of the way you kept yourself safe. People who have not suffered serious trauma and abuse always have trouble understanding. Change the locks and get a Ring camera or similar, just for your peace of mind. Can you afford to move? Maybe start very sorry this happened. All of it. EMDR therapy, a few sessions will do wonders for you immediately. Do this after changing the locks. You are having a nervous system overload. That's what happens when trauma victims get triggered. I think your boyfriend can collect some information from the internet about complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, and educate his mom. Also, SM could have easily been put in jail for things she did to you when you were a defenseless child. Is she aware? If not, your boyfriend can make her aware. You are not responsible. You did nothing wrong. Take care of your nervous system and give yourself time. Forgive yourself. You didn't do anything wrong, but your nervous system doesn't understand. Forgive yourself for being sad, upset, fearful, angry, and especially if you're feeling any shame. Comment 2. I don't want this to permanently affect their previously really good relationship. That's not in your control. But understand that what's going to permanently affect their relationship is not that she did this. It's because he's now found out that she's the kind of person who could do this, if that makes any sense. I'll give a similar example. If I found out that my longtime childhood friend had repeatedly cheated on his loving girlfriend, I'd end the friendship even if I didn't particularly care about the girlfriend. Not out of anger, not even out of support for her, but just because I've learned that actually he's not a good person and I don't want to be friends with someone like that. Now, for the update, day 1. I was still reeling from the shock of Friday's disaster when Saturday rolled around. BF and I had spent the night before talking about everything that had happened, trying to make sense of it all. He was still angry, and I was still shaken, but we were together, and that was something. We decided to change the locks first thing in the morning. BF had gotten the key back from HM, but we couldn't shake the feeling of our privacy being violated. As we waited for the locksmith, I couldn't help but remember how HM had been there for me when I had nowhere else to go. She had been a second mother to me, and now this betrayal felt like a fresh wound. BF's phone rang incessantly with calls from HM, but he ignored them all. I could see the hurt in his eyes, the struggle between his loyalty to me and the love for his mother. It was a heartbreak I knew all too well, torn between what was right and what was familiar. Day 2. Sunday was quiet, too quiet. BF and I spent the day indoors, trying to regain some sense of normalcy. We cleaned the house, trying to erase any trace of SM's presence. But as I wiped down the countertops, I couldn't help but think of the times HM had helped me clean up after a dinner party or a holiday meal. She had taught me so much, and now those memories were tainted. BF tried to distract me with a movie marathon, but my mind kept wandering. I thought about how SM had looked at me, that brief moment of eye contact before she looked away. There was no remorse there, no guilt, just the same coldness I remembered from my childhood. As night fell, BF held me close, and I tried to let go of the day's thoughts. But sleep was elusive, and when it finally came, it was filled with nightmares of the past. Day 3. Monday came with a sense of dread. I had to go back to work, back to the routine. But as I sat at my desk, my thoughts were anything but routine. I kept replaying Friday's events, the confrontation, the look on HM's face as BF yelled at her. I remembered the times HM had stood up for me against SM, against the world. She had been my protector, and now she was the one who had let the monster back in. It was a betrayal I couldn't understand, couldn't forgive. BF texted me throughout the day, checking in, sending me words of love and support. But even his words couldn't ease the ache in my heart. I was grateful for him, for his unwavering support, but I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. As I left work, I saw a car that looked like HM's in the parking lot. My heart skipped a beat, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't hers. It was just another reminder of the rift that had formed, a rift that I wasn't sure could ever be mended. Wife says she's been lonely and neglected for years. I move out and get my revenge. Throwaway, but I will follow through here. So I found out because I had this horrible feeling it is happening. I cannot explain it. I just somehow knew. She 40-year-old and I have not had a good 2 to 3 years. Infection 19 messed us up. Raising 2 kids and having debt was not easy. I was out too much, but tried to handle my side of things. I am a good father, but I neglected her. I never abused her aside from verbally sometimes being frustrated and passive-aggressive. We still had good times as well and tried to have family activities on a regular basis. Intimacy was rare. We focused on our careers and split the costs at home. In December, I had enough. I told her that I want to change. I want to spend more time together and focus on us. Be more present, both physically and emotionally. To my surprise, her reaction was angry, amused. She didn't take me seriously. Told me, how can I just assume that I can change like that? Regardless, I am committed to that and decided that from this year onwards, my priority is at home. However, she changed after that conversation, became distant, passive, avoided my look. Then she told me that maybe 2 separate addresses would be better. I was shocked. I had received no warnings, no discussions, no signals. I told her that we could surely make it work in our current setup if we make changes. Mainly that I make those priorities and commitments. She was just annoyed, told me that I do not listen to what she prefers, that now she needs space. I gave her that. At the same time, I could not help noticing that she distanced herself from me. No hearts in messages, no kisses, nothing. This was a drastic change. Then I noticed that she was constantly on her phone, smiling to it. My gut feeling went through the roof. Is she seeing someone? Is there someone who is behind this? Did I trigger her into facing what I want and into conflict? I could sense something was wrong. I asked her, is there another person in her life? No, I just need space. I was not reassured. She was shifty. Then I did what I should not have done, for the first time ever. I regret it, yet it gave me proof. My younger daughter knows her phone's passcode because she watches Netflix sometimes. When she had the phone, I had a look, went to messages, and there it was. She had gone all the way. This happened just recently. A colleague. My heart stopped. I knew we had issues, but that she could have gone and done this. I am sad, upset. We have a life together. Kids. I need to confront her tomorrow. I need to ask her directly. Tell her that I can feel something is wrong. I would want to forgive her. Go to therapy. I am just lost at the moment. I need this to stop. There is so much to throw away. What do I need to do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If she was angry and amused, I would say 99% sure. She has tried to talk to you about feeling distant and lonely and unappreciated, and you didn't listen. Maybe you didn't believe she was serious. Maybe you thought she was exaggerating. Whatever. She read that non-reaction as you not caring if she was unhappy or that she had been for a while and she had already given up on you, ever changing. I'm not going to defend her cheating on you, but I don't believe she never tried to tell you. Comment 2. Have some self-respect. Leave her. The relationship has been over. No intimacy, no love, no affection. Why the hell would you want to remain with that? Sounds like you're too comfortable with your situation to undergo the major uprooting a divorce causes. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for the support on my last post. It's been a wild couple of weeks, and I've got an update that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So, after I found those messages on my wife's phone, I was a wreck. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I was just going through the motions at work. I knew I had to confront her, but I was dreading it. I mean, we've been together for over 15 years, and the thought of it all coming crashing down was too much to bear. I remember when we first met, she was this vibrant, passionate person, and I was instantly drawn to her. We had some amazing times together, traveling, trying new things. But as the years went by, especially after the kids came along, we settled into a routine. I guess we stopped being a couple and started being just parents and roommates. Anyway, I finally worked up the courage to confront her. I waited until the kids were at school, and I told her we needed to talk. I asked her straight up if there was someone else. At first, she tried to deny it, but when I told her I saw the messages, she broke down and admitted it. Turns out, she'd been feeling neglected for years. She said that when I was out all the time, she felt like she had to handle everything at home by herself. She felt like I wasn't there for her emotionally, and she was lonely. She said that this guy, her colleague, was just someone who listened to her and made her feel valued. I was angry, sure, but I was also heartbroken. I realized that I had played a part in pushing her away. I had been so focused on my own stuff that I hadn't been there for her when she needed me. So we had a long, hard talk about everything. We laid it all out on the table, all the hurt feelings, all the resentment. And then we talked about the kids and what a split would mean for them. We both agreed that we didn't want that for them. In the end, we came to a compromise. It wasn't easy, but we decided that we would give our marriage another shot. We agreed that we would both make an effort to be more present and supportive of each other. We would go to therapy, both individually and as a couple, to work through our issues. But the compromise also meant that we would have a trial separation. She would rent a small apartment nearby, and we would split custody of the kids. We figured that giving each other some space might help us to appreciate each other more and not take each other for granted. It's been tough. I won't lie, seeing her pack up some of her things and move out was one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch. And explaining it to the kids was even harder. But we're trying to keep things as normal as possible for them. We still have family dinners once a week, and we make sure to spend time together as a family on the weekends. And you know what? It's actually been kind of good for us. Having that space has made us both realize how much we miss each other. We've been talking more, really talking, and it feels like we're slowly getting back to that place where we were when we first met. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my own behavior too. I've been trying to be more patient, less passive-aggressive. I've been making an effort to really listen to her and understand her perspective, and I can see that she's making an effort too. It's not all smooth sailing, of course. There have been some bumps along the way. Like the other day when I dropped the kids off at her place and saw that guy's car parked outside. That was a punch in the gut, let me tell you. But we talked about it, and she assured me that it was just a friendly visit, that there was nothing going on between them anymore. Boyfriend's friend keeps bad-mouthing me and tries to convince him to cheat on me, so they spend a late night drinking and making D&D character. I think boyfriend is entertaining his interest. I'm thinking of talking to him. Update, he bragged about trying to win him over and filed a complaint against him. Oh boy. My 26-year-old female boyfriend, 25-year-old male, has a friend, let's call him Dave, who has expressed his feelings for him. This is going to be a really long post, so sorry in advance. To give some background, Dave is a work colleague, and they've been friends for a while. Dave is openly gay, and we've met several times, and I never had any problems with him. We seem to get along quite well. This all started a few months ago. Dave and my boyfriend live on the same road, and after a night out with his work colleagues, they were dropped off together at Dave's house, where my boyfriend planned to walk home. That night, I had been messaging my boyfriend before bed, and at around 3 a.m. he messaged me that he was on his way home. I was asleep by then. The next morning, I woke up to see the 3 a.m. message and saw that just after 5 a.m. he messaged to say that he was home. I found this a little odd since the place he was going home from was about 30 minutes away, though I thought maybe he just forgot to reply. When he woke up, I asked him about his night and how late he got home. He told me that the whole work crew were being dropped off in the same Uber, so it took him about an hour to get back. But this confused me even more, because that wouldn't explain the 5 a.m. message. I asked if he ended up doing afters at Dave's house, but he said no, and just left it at that. He didn't even say he forgot to message or anything to explain the missing hour. I found it a bit strange, but left it alone, even though his responses were a little out of character, and I could tell he wasn't telling me something. The next date night we had, he finally let it slip that he wasn't telling me everything about that night. He told me that while he was walking home, Dave, who had already gone home since the Uber dropped them at his house, suddenly started running after him. He told me that Dave told him that he's had strong feelings for him for who knows how long, and that he was interested in starting something with him. My boyfriend said he was really in shock, and that he reminded him that he was straight and has a girlfriend who he's met. Dave asked if any part of him would be interested in trying anything, and my boyfriend said no. I wasn't extremely annoyed by this story, other than being a bit bothered that he tried to proposition him that night, but I asked him why he wouldn't just tell me that this happened, rather than keeping it a secret for a few days. He said he thought I might get upset, and when I asked him why I would be, he ended up adding more to the story. Apparently, while Dave was making this declaration of love, he was also taking the opportunity to badmouth me. Dave doesn't know me extremely well, but like I said before, our interactions at that point had been pleasant. He was telling my boyfriend that I do not deserve him and he could do much better than me, amongst other things. This, of course, did upset me, and I felt extremely disrespected. Not only did he try and convince my boyfriend to cheat on me, but the stuff he was saying was also extremely insulting. Dave and my boyfriend ended up having an hour conversation in the rain. He jokingly referred to it as the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for him. But I don't really know how much my boyfriend defended me or made it clear that this type of dialogue isn't okay with him. He definitely shut it down though. Since then, I felt very uncomfortable with my boyfriend and Dave's friendship. I don't want to be the type of girlfriend that has a problem with any of her boyfriend's friends, but I really felt like Dave had crossed a line. Still, they are constantly together because they work with each other, and my boyfriend spends a lot of time with his work colleagues on days off, etc. The problem is that as time goes on, it's getting to me more and more. Yesterday, I posted about my boyfriend having made plans with his friends, the work colleagues, on our anniversary. You can see that post here for context. Basically, they are planning to play D&D. And Dave went over to my boyfriend's place yesterday at 6:30 p.m. to create his character, since my boyfriend's never played before. My boyfriend had made it seem like there was a group who were going to help make his character, but it turned out to just be Dave. I only realized this because we were on FaceTime and Dave rang the bell while we were on call. Because he had abruptly hung up the phone on me, he told me he would call me back later when Dave left, and made it seem like he wouldn't be long. Well, it gets to midnight and my boyfriend still didn't call. I messaged to ask whether he was free yet, and he said that Dave was still there and they're having some drinks. Because I had work, I ended up just going to bed, and we said we'd call tomorrow, today. Today we called, and my boyfriend told me that he's extremely hungover and that Dave stayed until about 4 a.m. last night. I asked him what happened since it wasn't meant to be a big night, and he said they were initially drinking beers, but then moved to margaritas and lost track of time. I asked what they were doing all that time, literally 9.5 hours, and he said that it took them about 3 hours to make his D&D character. And then after that, Dave asked him to teach him how to DJ. My boyfriend makes music/DJs. I didn't say anything further than just asking him what happened last night, and he'll be seeing Dave again tonight for the D&D thing. This entire situation has seriously bothered me. Call me insecure, but I am not comfortable with my boyfriend spending one-on-one alone time all night with anyone who has expressed deep feelings for him, let alone someone who completely disrespected me in order to try and convince my boyfriend to get with him. I know that my boyfriend is not gay, but to me I feel just the same as I would feel had it been a girl who was interested in him. Even if nothing is going to happen, it feels like he's entertaining someone's interest, particularly someone who clearly doesn't respect our relationship. Should I speak to my boyfriend about this? What would I even say? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Maybe your boyfriend doesn't care that his friend bad-mouthed you, and he doesn't mind that Dave's did this with the intention to date him. Maybe your boyfriend is attracted in a romantic and/or intimacy way to him. Perhaps you can communicate all of this to him to get more clarity. Comment 2. So Dave taught him how to give oral intimacy. You can keep telling yourself he's 100% not gay, but what is your evidence he's not bisexual? He seems to have a full affair with Dave going on. That's at least 5% gay. He should have already realized you were not comfortable with Dave, who declared his feelings for your boyfriend. What does he do? He invites him for a one-on-one evening of almost 10 hours with excessive amounts of alcohol, nervous for something, and gets taught how to DJ. Move along. Nothing to see here. Now for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my boyfriend and his friend Dave. Things have taken a turn, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. So, after the whole D&D night, my boyfriend and Dave kept hanging out a lot. I tried to shake off the feeling that something was off, but it was hard. They were always together after work, and it seemed like Dave was always at our place when I wasn't there. My boyfriend kept saying it was just because they were friends and worked on the same projects. But then, about a month ago, I found out something that made my blood boil. One of my boyfriend's other colleagues, who I've become friends with, let it slip that Dave had been bragging at work about how he was going to win over my boyfriend and that I was just a temporary obstacle. I couldn't believe it. This was the same guy who had been in our home, acting all friendly to my face. I confronted my boyfriend about it, and he was shocked. He said he had no idea Dave felt that way and that he'd talked to him, but the talk didn't go as planned. Instead of setting boundaries, they ended up in a huge argument at work. My boyfriend told Dave off for disrespecting our relationship, but Dave turned it around and accused my boyfriend of leading him on, saying that they had a special connection. The whole thing blew up and their coworkers got involved. It was a mess. My boyfriend was upset and I was furious. How could Dave twist the situation like that? And why did my boyfriend not see the signs earlier? Things at home became tense. My boyfriend was stressed from the fallout at work, and I was still upset about the whole Dave situation. We tried to have a calm discussion about it, but emotions were running high. He assured me that he had no interest in Dave and that he was committed to our relationship. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he had enjoyed the attention, even if he didn't intend to act on it. Then, 2 weeks ago, another news dropped. Dave filed a complaint at work against my boyfriend, claiming that my boyfriend had been the one pursuing him and that he felt uncomfortable with the unwanted attention. I was floored. It was like we were living in some twisted reality where Dave was the victim and my boyfriend the aggressor. The investigation at work was quick, but it felt like an eternity. My boyfriend's reputation was on the line, and I could see the stress was eating him away. He had to explain his side of the story, provide messages, and get statements from other colleagues who could vouch for his character. In the end, the company sided with my boyfriend. They said there wasn't enough evidence to support Dave's claims, and several coworkers testified that Dave had been the one talking about trying to get with my boyfriend. But the damage was done. The workplace was divided, and my boyfriend was now seen by some as the guy who got into a love triangle at work. Dave ended up leaving the company. I don't know if it was his choice or if he was pushed out, but he was gone. And while part of me was relieved, I couldn't help but feel angry at the injustice of it all. Dave had tried to sabotage our relationship, tarnished my boyfriend's reputation, and walked away without any real consequences. My boyfriend and I are still together, but we're working through the trust issues that have surfaced. He's been more open with me since the incident, and we're trying to move past it. But I can't help but wonder if things will ever really go back to normal. As for Dave, I haven't seen or heard from him since he left the company. I hope it stays that way. But the whole ordeal has left a sour taste in my mouth. It's hard to believe that someone we thought was a friend could turn out to be so manipulative and deceitful. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.